That's the cue, the loud music. Welcome to Transforming Your ERP Processes with Agents in Dynamics 365. I'm April Olson. I'm head of product for the Dynamics 365 Finance and Human Resources Solutions. And later on, I will have Raghav Jandhyala present with me, and he is head of product for Dynamics 365 Supply Chain and Commerce. So we're excited to share with you all the great work and agents that we will be releasing. So let's start with the future of business. AI is changing the world at pace, and ERP is the foundation for driving business processes. But how work will be done in the future is really going to be dependent on modern AI-powered ERP systems. Autonomous agents and co-pilots in the AI-powered world will serve as a catalyst that transform legacy ERP solutions from managing transactions and very manual processes into autonomous systems that change the nature of business. And they will be able to autonomously create and execute complex workflows, changing, like I said, the nature of how we work today. So business leaders are navigating a transformation that is much more profound than the cloud ever was. So why is this technology so transformative? And you've probably heard a little bit about it from our CEO, Satya. But the AI revolution is really brought together by three very powerful capabilities. The first is a universal interface. If you think about transforming the way that we interact with software, you used to have to really know how computers work. You'd have to navigate clicks, buttons in different forms, and have a general understanding of how the system worked. But what if we can use speech and video to really set our intent and get output from systems? It would change the way we work with our software. We also have a very powerful reasoning and planning set of capabilities that not only processes loads of data, but remembers the context and logic of these complete end-to-end scenarios. And last is we bring together all of this through memory and context, recalling both the personal knowledge as well as the data across the organization and across the systems. So these capabilities coming together is transforming what we can do in the ERP context that we've never been able to do before, such as autonomously processing purchase orders, continuously running your financial close, and navigating travel and time and expense and autonomous approvals. So it's really allowing us to change the way that systems work. So now let's take a moment and ground ourselves in the key AI concepts that are making this technology and allowing us to transform our systems. The first is Copilot and agents are really the building blocks of AI-powered ERP systems. And AI-powered ERP is an intelligent system that is going to manage business process workflows across finance, human resources, and operations. Copilot is going to be your AI assistant. It works for you. So as we take this together, now agents and AI will automate and execute these business processes, working alongside a person, a team, an organization. And it will continuously orchestrate workflows and optimize processes as you go. However, you're always in control, which is really key, especially in the ERP world. Our agents are really the new AI-powered applications, and Copilot is really the user interface and how we interact with them. So those are some of the way the key concepts come together as we think about changing the world of ERP. So now let's take a step back and go, how is this really different from legacy systems that we're all familiar with? If you think about a legacy system, it still has an organization operate in a very static way. It's hard for organizations to react to business disruptions and market-changing conditions. And the way you navigate your business processes is very static and manual. AI-powered ERP is going to shift this paradigm, with copilots and agents enabling dynamic workflows. So first of all, Copilot and agents are always listening. Okay? They're going to take proactive actions. So if you think about the manual business processes today, these manual routine actions will be replaced by dynamic workflows that are constantly changing based on logic and optimizing how you want to work. So these dynamic workflows will replace manual workflows that are today are very business rule driven. And so when changes happen, they break and they're very static. So as the agents are learning and reasoning, you're going to start to see that these workflows will now be optimized and tailored as what you need to complete based on what has changed. So it really changes the game in workflows. And last, users are going to want to interact with our systems now because of a new modern user experience. Again, you no longer will need to navigate and understand the system, which is very hard. It definitely hurts change management when you're thinking about coming from legacy systems and people like to follow very specifically what they've been told to do. The system is now going to give you an immersive, adaptive experience. It's going to help these users complete the task at hand when they need to complete it. And so it's really going to change the way that they interact and make this. And these concepts are core to AI-powered ERP systems. The good news is when Raghav comes on stage, you'll get to see some of these in action. So where is the differentiator? Why is Microsoft differentiating in this space? The first is composability. And so if you think about our solutions today, they're very modular. They give you unlimited, they're built on the cloud, they give you unmatched security, scalability, and flexibility. Depending on the area your business wants to drive impact for first, you can start with Dynamics Finance or supply chain and add on HR or something later. And then the beauty is we have the great low-code customization capabilities with our Power Platform, as well as Copilot Studio. And that allows you to tailor the solutions to your organization or industry needs. The second is connected. If you think about it, we can unify data across all the different systems. So with the Dynamics 365 applications, they're all built on the Power Platform and Dataverse so that you can unify them. But you can also unify the data across all your third-party systems with the thousands of connectors that the Power Platform offers. So together, then we have autonomous agents that are going to autonomize this entire workflow process and take action and insight on behalf of you. We can do this because they're all built on the Microsoft Cloud. They take all the productivity data from the Microsoft Graph. And this is really going to allow you to empower teams with real-time insights and, again, actionable items at every level of the business, depending on where you start. And the beauty of this is you can all do this while adhering to the responsible, comprehensive security measures of the Microsoft Responsible AI. The key thing to remember, and this is so important when talking to organizations in ERP, is your data is your data. Your data is not used to train general AI models. You have confidence that your data, your organization's data, from beginning to end is all contained within your organization. And it is protected by the most comprehensive compliance and security controls. So let's take a look. We just recently announced autonomous agents in Dynamics 365 ERP. So let's get a little teaser before we dive deeper into it.
Microsoft Copilot and agents in Dynamics 365 ERP solutions are set to transform the way your business operates. Agents can become part of everyday workflows, like autonomously managing and collaborating with suppliers to confirm order delivery, proactively addressing risks, and preempting costly delays, or helping finance teams close their books faster by matching and clearing transactions between ledgers, or helping service delivery teams manage time and expense entry by creating expense submissions and time entry recommendations. And this is just the beginning. Microsoft's agents are powered by our rich data cloud, bringing data together from across your organization. Productivity data in Microsoft Graph, with business process data in Microsoft Dataverse, and thousands of connectors to third-party systems. The agents learn alongside you and continuously improve by proposing updates to its logic for your review. You are in control. With agents performing the task on your behalf, you and your teams can scale quickly to minimize risk and exceed customer expectations, enhance cash flow visibility and business decision-making, and ensure projects stay on track and within budget. And if you have a unique business challenge, you can build your own agent with Copilot Studio to meet your needs. All this while adhering to comprehensive security measures and designed using Microsoft's responsible AI principles. Start today with Copilot and agents in Dynamics 365 ERP solutions.
Awesome. So let's recap what we just heard. Now we're going to dive into some of the details. With autonomous agents powering your ERP, the impact of business processes is profound. Some of the key things we just saw is you can preempt supply chain disruptions and meet customer demand with the Supplier Collaborations agent. You're now going to be able to continuously run reconciliation, reducing the time in your financial close, getting your financial reporting out to key stakeholders, and changing your cash flow control much faster. Not to mention keeping your project on budget by getting time and expense and saving valuable time for your users. These are just the beginning of the things that we are going to be able to do with AI and agents. So now let's get into some of the details and have Raghav come up and step us through the Supplier Collaborations agent.
Thanks, April. Hello, everyone. I'm Raghav Jandhyala. I'm the head of product for supply chain and management and commerce in Dynamics 365. Today, I'll be going a little bit deep dive into the autonomous agents. These we have announced in October, and these are in different areas of ERP across finance, supply chain, and commerce. So let's go deep dive into these. So first, I want to talk about the spectrum of agents, right? So agents exist in spectrum. So we have customers who are at different stages of their AI transformation, and the levels of complexity and capabilities of agents vary as well. So on the left, you see starting with the simple ones to right side more advanced. On the simple side of the spectrum is the agents that are able to do more of this retrieval type of tasks. So these are more assistive in nature, so they're working side by side with the users, helping with them their tasks like reasoning, summaries, inquiring on your data, asking any questions, natural language help, those sort of things. The second graduation is towards more task-oriented. So here we have more like task-oriented autonomous agents, which help with the repetitive workflows. But these workflows are more rules-driven. So you have a certain process. You also want to make it repetitive. You want to use Gen AI to show some sort of impact analysis and take actions. So we have released in this area also some capabilities. For example, in Dynamics 365, today you have a capability called purchase order changes tracking. So there Gen AI can classify the purchase order changes into low risk and high risk, and you can automatically take action on this low risk ones and confirm those orders. So those sort of things already exist. But where we are moving forward is with these autonomous agents. Autonomous agents, like April mentioned, they have certain unique qualities. So they can operate independently, and they have unique attributes such as dynamic planning, reasoning, memory, and learning, which makes them unique, which makes them different from RPAs and other things. So today we'll predominantly focus on the autonomous agents and go a little bit deep dive into the 3 agents that we released. So the 3 autonomous agents in D365 ERP are on the top, like supply communication agent, account reconciliation, time and expense agent. But before that, I would also like to call out at the bottom there you see is the copilots that we already shipped into the product. So we have about 30 plus copilots that are already out there in production, and the customers are also using it. So we have a very good adoption of these capabilities as well. And where they are helping is many things, like you saw that spectrum that I showed earlier about taking the journey from simple to complex. So doing some simple things like summarization, assistive help, natural language query on your data, and also things like on the project management, project status report generation, and so forth. So this helps you gain the trust, start your early projects, have success, and then so you can graduate into more complex things. Now, I'd like to talk more on the 3 agents that are out there, and we'll go a little deeper into those. The first one is the supplier communication agent. So this helps automate the collaboration with your suppliers on order changes. It helps you mitigate disruptions and preempt any potential delays on your orders. The second one is account reconciliation agent. This automates matching and clearing of transactions between your subledger and the general ledger, and where it really helps is your financial managers to close their books towards the month-end closing process faster. And then last one is the time and expense agent. This is used for autonomously managing time entry, tracking your expenses and approvals. So it helps you with invoicing your clients on time and also on accuracy, and prevents any revenue leakages. So let's deep dive a little bit more into the supply communication agent, where I mentioned the goal of that supply communication agent is to collaborate with suppliers to mitigate disruptions on purchase order changes. So let's see this in action. So why do we need to first solve this? Why did we choose this use case? Almost every company out there has some sort of a procurement needs, whether it's direct or indirect procurement. Delays in procuring data from your suppliers has a downstream effect, meeting your SLAs with your customers. So there are companies which have done outsourced procurement many times just for cost savings. But what's happening is they're losing the value of that supply relationship. And we have seen during times of pandemic and beyond that if you don't have that good supply relationship management, it'll have a downstream impact on your whole supply chain, on your value chain itself. So today, the supply chain procurement specialists are tasked with the time-consuming manual changes that they need to swift through. So things like manually tracking the orders, managing supplier issues, and resolving delays, and also being more of a reactive problem solving. So if your critical components are often delayed, then you resolve to last-minute delivery to customers, late deliveries, expedited shipments, which ultimately leads to increased costs. Last but not the least, also limited strategic focus, right? So if you're highly administrative focused on making sure your PO changes are managed, you're losing your focus on those supply relationships building, right? So this is an example of one of a customer that we've been working with. So they have their procurement specialists process 180 emails per day in order to make sure that the POs are confirmed on time to meet their SLAs with their customers. This drains up almost their procurement specialists. They have higher attritions, but if you look at the number of steps they need to do that's listed there, they have to read the incoming emails, navigate to the order. These are 2 different systems. They might go into some other Power BI report, look at what's the inventory, what can I do about this. They need to identify which customers are going to be affected with this change, delay in this order, which they might do in Dynamics or any other system. They have to have collaboration across their stakeholders and inform their sales teams or the production teams that there's a delay that might have impact for them. And finally, also manage this collaboration with the suppliers. So, and you think about this with one email, and they have to process this like 180, right? So that's a large amount of work. Now, where agent can really help is to automate these processes. So with the things that the properties of agents I said, the reasoning, the dynamic planning, learning, it can do all these activities like if you're collaborating with your suppliers in terms of email communication, it can read the emails, understand the context, understand if there are changes in the purchase orders there, make those changes in the system, but also do other things that you could not do before, like understanding where the impacts are, giving solution for disruption mitigation, and also having a collaboration across your stakeholders so everybody is informed on where to go. So you as an end user, it's on the right, still have the full control and autonomy on what happens. You can you can control the degree of automation, but more importantly, what you're now empowered to do is review and accept those proposals and review those drafts. So your job has now been much more simplified. So let's look at this in an action, and for this I'll go to a live demo. Okay. All right. So here is in our Dynamics 365 supply chain management and immersive home experience, where the agent is suggesting things like speed up your purchase order updates. So this is more about the inbound communication that you're getting from your suppliers. So it says that you have been manually confirming purchase orders. About 155 purchase orders have been confirmed in the last week. And if these are primarily coming from emails, and if there are no changes, we can automate this process, right? And it can also give you potential time savings, how much can be saved. So with that information, I'll click on the Get Started. And you see that agent has recommended a rule that it came up with, that if there are no changes to the purchase orders confirmation from any vendor, then we'll go ahead and confirm this purchase order. And we give access to our email stream so that it can go and access those emails from the vendors. We go ahead and activate this agent now. Fast forward next 2 days, agent is at work. It's autonomously processing those inbound communications that we are getting from the suppliers. And you can see the agent activity here. So it has processed around 25 emails, and of that, 23 emails it could confirm with no changes. But then there's also 2 other emails it's asking for action, okay? And also potential time savings that you see about 2 hours here. So this is where the agent and human communication comes together, right? Because it now needs to know what it needs to do when there's things it cannot resolve on its own. So here we review those changes to the purchase orders that we need to process. What agent has done is, from one of the email that it got from the supplier for the purchase order 123, it identified the different line items. It identified what are the changes in the quantities and the dates. So you see here, they said that we can only deliver 300 units. So it identified the difference there. It also identified, it's also asking like, oh, the email said next week, and here's a recommendation of what the next week could be. And yes, we can take that recommendation, but I also can see what's the impact analysis. Yes, though the quantity is lower, it doesn't have any impact on my SLA to my customer. So we are good here. So I'll go ahead and update this purchase orders. On the next email, we see that the delivery date is shifted by a week, right? But on the impact analysis, you see that there's a stock out predicted within our lead time. So agents also gives you information on this impact analysis, like what's the effect of this change in this purchase order on my further downstream. So what production orders have been affected and what sales orders have been affected. So you can see that it gives you the trace, and here the class A type customers have been affected. And it's also giving you that recommendation or a suggestion that if you dip into your safety stock, those customer orders can be met. Good, I take that into consideration. And then we update the purchase order. Okay, now you see that the agent is also learning from user actions. So there's now a new recommendation that if you have such situations in the future where your Class A customers are not being fulfilled, do you now dip into the safety stock? And as a user, I can give permission for it to learn this new skill and apply automatically when it finds this. Fast forward, now this is more of an agent suggesting outbound communication. So for example, as part of being a purchasing clerk or as a specialist, you also need to follow up with your suppliers on what their status is on the confirmation of the orders. So the agent is recommending that over the last weeks, there have been missed deliveries because the supplier was not confirming on time, okay? And it also gives you this rule it came up with is if the purchase order is in an unconfirmed state and is due for 5 days, I could send an email to the supplier and what information to be included with that. In this case, we have purchase order number and delivery date. I can go ahead and customize this. I can also include other information like my warehouse number, the quantities, and so forth. But for now, I'll activate this. So now, agent is in work. It's processing all these different emails. So as you can see on the top, the agent activity. So it's able to follow up on 58 purchase orders, saving about three hours of time. And also, it's able to follow up on the purchase order updates and saving up 18 hours of time. Not only that, you can see a good ROI from this in terms of your KPIs, right? So for example, your OTIF, on-time in-full delivery, has improved over 10% month over month. So a tangible business value coming out of this as well. Now, like I said, you have the full autonomy of what the agent is doing and how to control that. So you can click also on to see what the agent activity has been. This lists all the agent activities that have been automated. So for example, confirming on the purchase orders if there's no changes. We have seen to dip into the safety stock if the orders cannot be met, or following up with vendors on unconfirmed orders. And not only that, it gives you a clear ROI of what's the benefit of that. And also in terms of KPIs, such as the delayed supplies has gone down and the OTIF has gone up. Okay? So like I said, at the end of the day, it's also about how do we measure the performance, value, and impact of these agents. And that's why these are important to call out where there's savings on whether it's hours change or productivity or the OTIF. Okay. With that, I'll switch back to my PowerPoint. So what you have seen there, I just wanted to do two takeaways from that demo. One is about the adaptive experience. So you've seen that we didn't go through any of our form-based user screens, which are a bunch of lines of purchase orders, no inventory screens, nothing. It's very much focused on the task that the user has to do, and it's dynamic. So in this age of agents and copilots, there's also this new paradigm about adaptive experience. So in Dynamics, we are introducing something called immersive home pages, where you can set up those agent automations, review the tasks, take actions, measure the performance of the agents, and so forth. So it's a new way of working with the systems as well. The second one you have seen is that agents are also continuously learning, right? We have seen that as the user makes changes, agents are recommending, can I make that as an automation task? And it's also continuously learning. But humans are always in control here. And that's where the power of agents come in, right? It's learning, it has memory of your past tasks, and it's continuously improving over time. Okay. With that, let's quickly summarize on our business outcomes of this supply communication agent. So we saw that we can move from this time-consuming manual order changes to more of this understanding the signals from the suppliers and be more reactive to this, proactive to this change than reactive. And also, we are able to now mitigate those disruptions. So this definitely helps from moving over from those tedious administrative repetitive tasks of confirming the purchase orders to more helping users to build those strategic relationships and driving better performance with their suppliers. So let's look at the next one, which is account reconciliation agent. So like I was mentioning before, this speeds up your period end closing process by automating those reconciliations of transactions between your subledger and the general ledger. So again, if you look at the main challenges today faced by the finance managers, number one thing is manual time-consuming reconciliation. So this process of reconciliation is very tedious, manual, and also very stressful, right? People are under immense pressure to close their books on time every month. And the second point is also it is error-prone. So it's because of the nature of the manual nature of comparing and resolving, there's also very less room for error here. So you need to make sure that you're always, and you don't spend your late nights to meet those deadlines. So Errors is a very important thing in finance, and it can range from $1 to $1 million, so this is very important. And also the third one here is also limited strategic focus, right? So I could have done better job if I had better use of my time into more high-value strategic initiatives like a financial planning and analysis than just reconciliation. So let's see into action how this account reconciliation agent helps the finance managers.
Making smart decisions about how to run your business hinges on having accurate financial data. Let's say you're a finance manager responsible for getting financial results processed at quarter end. Normally, it takes you more than 2 weeks full of overtime to get your books closed. With the account reconciliation agent in Dynamics 365, all of that changes. It steps in to handle the heavy lifting, automatically reviewing, reconciling data, and escalating to you as it finds discrepancies. While you remain in charge, you choose what functions the agent handles for you, and you can review and update at any time. The agent flags an exception where a transaction was recorded in the ledger, but not the subledger. Based on how you've handled this kind of exception before, the agent suggests to reverse and repost from the subledger. With your approval, the agent takes care of it for you. It also learns as it works alongside you, proposing updates to rules and actions as it goes. At any time, you can check in on the agent and review its operation on your behalf, ensuring full visibility and trust is established. With the account reconciliation agent, you can close your quarter faster, helping your business make quicker decisions and saving you from dreaded overtime.
Great. Okay, let's look at the key takeaways from that. The two that we learned from the previous agent, which is adaptive experience, and the agents are continuously learning, is also very much valid here. You have seen how the immersive experiences are helping that user, and it's also dynamic based on the persona. Whether if you're a financial manager or a financial specialist, what you see on the information is dynamic in nature. But more important thing is about this agent activity tracking. For finance, it's very important to stay compliant to audits and stay in compliance to any understanding the changes that have been made over time. And agent activities are always tracked and logged so that it's easier for these audits that are very much necessary in financial transactions. Okay, so what we have seen is that the benefits of the business outcomes of this financial reconciliation agent is you're now moving from a manual reconciliation process to a continuous reconciliation, and it also helps you speed up the period and closing process. You also have a better visibility into your cash flow. And now you can move from having those manual repetitive tasks to spend time doing more strategic focus like better financial planning and analysis. Okay, now let's move to the third agent, which is your time and expense agent. This time and expense agent is the agent that we introduced for automating the time entry, the expense tracking and approvals, so that you can invoice you on time and prevent revenue leakages. All right, challenges, I don't even need to say that. Every one of you are going to go back and do your expense reporting, right? Good luck for that, okay? Wish you had an agent to do that, something which can process your emails, process your documents, and come up with that submission of your expenses, right? And especially if you're in a services consultant, very important time is your time management, right? Recording the time expenses and getting that approvals on time. So obviously this is a lot of mundane tasks, and it's not only a lot of tasks, but also it drains the productivity of the teams. Nobody has said that, hey, I want to do expenses and I'm going to go and spend my day doing it. It just drains things out of it. We can do something better. So we can leave this to agents to help automate these tasks. And one of the biggest things that we see as a challenge is also this revenue leakage. If you have inaccurate filing of your reports, it also leads to audits, revenue leakage, and also delayed invoices if it's not paid on time. Let's see how time and expense agent works.
Time and expense management is a task no one enjoys. Say you're a consultant, you'd much rather spend your time value to your clients than doing tedious admin tasks. With a time and expense agent in Dynamics 365, you can do just that. The agent pulls data right from your Outlook calendar and cross-references it with your project forecasts for each client. It drafts your time entries for you, filling in the details with context from meetings and emails. Now, all you have to do is review and submit with a single click, and your business trip expenses become a breeze as the time and expense agent takes care of that for you, collecting receipts from your email and mapping to the right expense categories. You just need to ensure accuracy and submit your expenses on time. The agent helps out managers too. It reviews time and expense submissions and ensures they comply with company policies, automating approvals for all compliant entries. With a streamlined process, you can get invoices to customers promptly, helping prevent revenue leakage. It also helps identify violations to policy, ensuring clients are never billed for incorrect time or expenses. With agents and Dynamics 365, you're freed up to spend time focusing on what is important, driving value for your clients.
Cool. So that was the time and expense agent. I just want to call about the takeaways. Again, the three takeaways are similar for all the agents that I've shown. Adaptive experience, you have seen those experiences, right? No, you're not logged into any ERP system or a backend system. You have been in teams where your productivity tools are, and still the agent is able to submit those expenses on time. Also, we have seen that agents are continuously learning from user actions, and there's also same thing like tracking of activity of the agents. But very important thing is, next is agent performance and ROI. So in the last screen that you might have seen, it shows you how you can measure this ROI. So it shows you how many times the entries have been missed before and after activating the agent. And you can also see what have been, how many corrections and rejections have been made before and after activating this agent. So it's very important to have this measurable ROI so you can quantify the impact and value of the agents. Okay. All right. With that, just calling out what are we seeing as the business outcomes from this. So you're able to now deliver projects on time and on budget. So you're able to now invoice your clients on time and with more accuracy. You're also able to minimize the revenue leakages that you have seen in the video, and also more time spending serving your clients better. Okay, so that's your time and expense agent. I would like to wrap up with showing now why is AI-powered ERP critical. So you have seen different examples of copilots, agents. So it is taking that ERP from a very transaction-oriented system to a system of reasoning and decision-making, right? So that's taking that ERP to more of an autonomous ERP journey. So being driving from a reactive business outcome to more of a proactive and reason-based. And also, it's also time for you to think about your ERPs, whether it's on a legacy ERP. You don't want to be bogged down or slowed down with the time to market, because things are changing rapidly. Your customer needs are changing fast. The market needs are changing fast, so that having that agility and flexibility to have this rapid innovation to be more competitive and not lose on this opportunity is very important for you and for everybody. So with that, that's all about AI-powered ERP I wanted to cover. Just want to call out there's other sessions that you have seen in the schedule which are also into this. But also we have our booth in the hub area where we can see all those scenarios, the agent scenarios in action. So please come and visit us. And we'll also be available to take any questions after this meeting too. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I can open up for any Q&A you might have. But anyway, thanks for joining us. Any questions? So these agents we announced, they're on private preview right now. So we are working with few selective customers. It'll be public preview in February and GA pretty soon after that. Yeah. Yes.
Just like Dynamics extensibility, if we have to create new agents, like what is the process for that?
Very good question. So all these agents are built on the same technology platform like Microsoft Copilot Studio. So we underlying leverage that. We give this out of the box because we have direct access to this. But as a consultant, or you can also extend these with your MCS as well.
So the data for these agents is coming from the live database, or it is coming from?
It's live from Dynamics, yeah, right now. But you can augment it with other data through MCS.
I have a question that sounds a bit mischievous. I've not seen quite so much results and reports about the productivity benefits from using an agent and anything else Microsoft's done historically. Do you have any guidance of what the price of these agents is going to be? Because there seems to be a lot of justification work done on the screens, which is fair enough.
Price, you mean?
Yeah.
That's a very good loaded question. So we are still in works on the pricing for this. Obviously, we have a metrics on how to monetize this, because it needs to be based on the business outcome. So there'll always be underlying costs to run the machinery and so forth, but then there's a business outcome. For example, in procurement side, we are looking at what's your PO order cycle time that could be reduced with that. So how much users' productivity in terms of days that are spent can be reduced. So there are some metrics that we have defined, and based on that, the meter will start rolling.
I have a quick question. Do we have access to the knowledge base, the decisions that the agent is making?
Yeah, so we definitely for each of these agents, the knowledge base for now is what you have in the underlying systems that's fed to it. But in the Microsoft Copilot Studio, you can configure those different knowledge bases that you want to feed in, right? So for example, in one of the time and expense agent, one of the knowledge base is your compliance document on how the expenses should be reported. So it's taking that as an input along with all the transactions data that's in the ERP to come up with those recommendations. So yes, you will have that access to the knowledge.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that too. If in the account reconciliation agent, the top area of feedback is to make sure we're tracking all the evidence, anything that both the user and the agent has done. So it went very fast, but on the right side, there was a detailed timeline. What does the agent reconcile? What happened through general automation? What time did the user kind of weigh in and approve or reject? So there's a full detailed of all the evidence and decisions and the timelines, like in something like account reconciliation too. So we need to make sure we keep that governance and control, especially in an ERP system.
So with the I'm over here.
Oh, thank you.
With the autonomous agents, I noticed that it gave users recommendations as different activities were happening. And so my question was, how will we be able to manage who can say, yes, I want to turn on an autonomous agent?
Very good question. So this is very much focused, you have role-based access in all of these. My demo was a very much simplified one, but usually these needs to be approved, right? So as a purchasing specialist, when I approved that you need to dip into the safety stock in order to meet that, that's not a simple decision that can be made. Usually there's an approval process for that. But yes, we have approval. So managers usually set the agent automation and what needs to be done. And the users are working with the agent to ensure that results are good and taking actions. Yeah.
Any last questions, folks? Okay, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.